All right, hi seventh grade. This is part 2 of painting your watercolor landscape. We talked about starting with what is furthest away from you first, and that's the sky. I have continued to work on my painting. I still have more stuff I want to do in the sky, but some students are ready to move on to the next step. So I want to talk about starting to paint things that are closer to you in your painting. So in my photograph, what's closer to me is the green of the grass, so the green vegetations and the rocks. All right, I want to be careful to make sure that I'm leaving any shapes that are white in my photograph. I want to leave white on my paper. I want to leave it the white of the paper because with watercolors, we don't have white. You leave the white of the paper. So I'm going to begin painting the greens and the grass. So when you're painting green vegetation, whether it's trees or grass, there are so many different color greens. I have my mixing palette here that's clear. It kind of looks like it's a part of the table. But I'm looking at my photograph of the different color greens that I have. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to get some green and put it on my palette. This green is a pure green, a Crayola green. So we want to tone it down a little bit. I do notice for me, I'm going to wash my brush, I do have a lot of yellow in my green, so I'm going to come here and get some yellow. I'm going to twirl, rub those bristles in the yellow to really get a nice vibrant yellow to mix it. And it's still quite intense, a quite intense yellow color. In order to make a green look more natural, you want to add a little red to it. That's the complementary color to green. And by adding a little bit of red into your greens, do you see how that just saturated it a little bit? It's not as bright, as intense as it was before. So I'm going to keep adding the red until I get the color I want. I can test it here on my test sheet to see if that's the color that I want, and that looks pretty good. So you want to start with painting all the light areas that you see in your painting. So I'm going to come here with this light green, and I'm going to begin looking at where I see all these shapes of light green color. And I'm just going to begin putting them in as if, almost as if I like had a pencil. I'm kind of, you know, putting them in wherever I see this color. Now, the other thing is you want to stick with the light greens and the yellows first. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to have this yellow. I need to tone this yellow down. The complementary color to yellow is purple. It's opposite on the color wheel that we just did. So I'm going to get a little bit of purple, make sure I don't have too much on my brush. Add it into the yellow, and you'll see that the yellow is toned down a little bit. I can come over here on my little sample tile and see how it's not a bright yellow. It's a little bit more toned down. So now I'm going to come back in and take a look, and I want to put in wherever I see yellows in my painting. I want to make sure that I get all those shapes in first. When you are working with watercolor, you always start light with the yellows and the light greens and the whites, and then you begin building up value and you go back in and you put in the dark values. All right, so I'm putting in all those yellows that I'm seeing, and I want to make sure that I'm not missing any. There's a lot of yellows in the rocks, so I might want to lay down a larger section of yellow. Remember that you have this puddle of color that you kind of drag across. So I'll go back in later and draw individual rocks with different colors and add those lines in. All right, so right now focus on adding all your yellows and light greens and light values. If you have any questions, send me a message in chat or ask me in class.